Whether you know them as a band or a t-shirt brand, we all know them and we all love them. Nirvana probably has some of the craziest lore out of any band in history. I just wonder, how do we go from this to this? Let's also not forget the happiest song about depression ever, Lithium. And also that one joke about Kurt Cobain that's so old and it blows my mind that people still use it to this day. One of the things that makes Nirvana so great is that anybody can play their music. We all know Guitar Center's national anthem, Smells Like Teen Spirit. It's an absolute classic. Nirvana has also taught us that you don't need a 7-minute guitar solo in every song. You just need 3 chords and enough angst to terrify your parents. Play the chords enough times and you're out of the house. Nirvana, of course, is known to have a history of controversy, regardless of only being around for 7 years. The first album was no big deal, partially because it was their debut album and they didn't receive instant success, but at least they had built a dedicated fan base. Instead, controversy began with their second album, Nevermind, which would be a breakthrough that would bring them to the mainstream. Now, right off the bat, you could probably see where there was some controversy to start with. Of course, the album cover. If I were being honest, I want to believe that this was to start controversy. After the release of Nirvana's debut album, I want to believe that Kurt Cobain was thinking, man, this album's good, but we need to find a way for people to notice us. We need to stir up some controversy. You know what? Let's throw a naked baby in the pool, take a picture for the album cover, and call it a day. Odds are that's probably not what was going through his head, but who knows, I guess. It's also pretty important that I mention their song Polly on the Nevermind album because that definitely took the assist in the controversy. But their next 2 albums would continue to stir up controversy, with their 3rd album being named, well, Insecticide, and their 4th album, In Utero, having the song that we all know and love today, Rape Me. Insecticide was kind of a flop, but In Utero was a hit for sure. Of course, those of you who don't know much about Nirvana, or are new, it's worth mentioning that Kurt Cobain was very anti-rape, and all the songs such as Polly and Rape Me were anti-violence according to Kurt Cobain. I promise you, as far as I'm concerned, Kurt Cobain was overall a great person, but he did definitely go through a lot. He was of course a heavy drug addict and suffered from depression, so all jokes aside, he was a good man. I mean, that was a really weird place to put that, but whatever. There was this one time whenever the audience was booing a female grunge band or something like that, I don't know, I'm too lazy to look it up. And in retaliation, Kurt Cobain had the genius idea to butcher the show and basically tease the crowd with playing the intro to Smells Like Teen Spirit, but never actually playing it. But let me tell you, the Nirvana members were the biggest trolls back in the 90s. Every Nirvana fan knows of that one time on MTV when they were told not to play Rape Me, so Nirvana decided to edge them by playing the first few chords of Rape Me before switching to Smells Like Teen Spirit, just to mess with the MTV executives. Probably could have worded that a bit better, but it is what it is. This is also the same show that Chris Novoselic threw his bass into the air and it smacked him in the face whenever he tried to catch it. Yeah, he was dragged off stage. Apparently he was blinded by the stage lights when he tried to catch it and he missed. Thankfully, despite his injury, the performance did not end early, and the final performance proceeded with Kurt Cobain destroying amps and Dave Grohl taunting Axl Rose in the microphone. Another thing, for whatever reason, that was controversial was the way that they dressed. Apparently their thrift store look was controversial because it destroyed the glam metal aesthetic. There was also another show on the MTV Unplugged where Nirvana, instead of playing their hits, decided to cover obscure songs by Leadbelly and the Meat Puppets. Of course, people were expecting to hear Smells Like Teen Spirit, but not this time, I guess. This is like if I went to that one Metallica concert in Houston and they decided to play Megadeth songs instead. Well, actually, that was a horrible example. That would be controversial as heck. Kurt Cobain constantly clashed with corporate culture, journalists, and even his own label. He refused to lip sync on live TV shows and would intentionally butcher performances when he was told to do so. We could go on for hours about what made Nirvana so controversial, but none of these controversies would even compare to the controversy that is Kurt Cobain's death. April 5th of 1994, Kurt Cobain would take his own life. This brought up so many theories. Nobody can be exactly sure why he took his own life. I mean, the only one that actually knew what was going on in Kurt Cobain's head was, of course, Kurt Cobain himself. So, of course, everybody began to come up with these conspiracy theories. One common theory was that he hated fame so much that he couldn't live with it, but of course there's no clear answer to this. His death also had a mix of responses from other famous bands around the world, with some cracking jokes about it.
Qualche secondo e volevo chiedere qualcosa. Today is like the anniversary of the death of Kurt Cobain. Do you feel like saying something or?
He was a good aim.
And some bands with more respectable responses.
Yeah, nobody knows what he went through.
Yeah,
what his life
and
was
you
all
always
about.
hear people say, you know, it's only been 3 days now, 4 days now, and everybody's going, what a selfish guy, he left behind a wife and kid. Well, how can you say that? You know, how can you say that? Nirvana put out a record that did nothing, and their next record exploded. We don't sell 1/5, 1/6, 1/10 of the records they sell, and I don't like the pressures that I have. I know he doesn't like the pressures he has.
Even to this day, people continue to argue whether if Nirvana was still around, if they would be relevant or not still. I have always wondered what a fifth Nirvana album would have looked like. There's definitely a chance that they could have fallen off hard if it wasn't for Kurt Cobain's death. Kind of like the All-American Rejects, if anybody even still remembers them. Let's also not forget the Foo Fighters. If Nirvana wouldn't have had ended, Dave Grohl, the drummer, might have never moved on to create the band that we all know and love today. And it was a canon event. And you know that cheesy line that everybody says about the artists who die early? Don't smile because it happened, cry because it's gone. Wait, no, don't cry because it's gone, smile because it happened. Yeah, that sounds right. But yeah, that's what makes Nirvana so great. I just showed you all a bit of history and controversy from this band. You either love them or you hate them. Anyways, that's all I got. Join the Discord and also leave a subscribe and a like, please. I mean, if you want. Of course, it's your decisions. And anyways, guys, that's all I got. And yeah, it's outro time.
Like fatherhood?
Vodka? Yes, I love vodka.